Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows and adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Kaiju number 8, Season 1, Episode 6. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, our new recruit, this is their first mission, their first large-scale operation. So, obviously, we see the large-scale evacuations and also just the teams being divided up as they are, because there's one large kaiju that is splitting off these little, as they call them, like yojus, so I guess like that's the titling for like the large scale kaijus are the hanjo, and the yojos are like the little. I mean, it kind of reminds me like if you've ever played Final Fantasy X, it's like Sin is the Hanju, and then the Yoju are all the little Sin spawns that it sends off, which is kind of interesting. And obviously the teams, our characters are split up into different groups, like Aoi and What's-His-Face are together, obviously still competing with each other. So is Iharu and Ichikawa, but Ichikawa's not even focused on that. His main motivation is, I need to get stronger so that Kafka will never have to use his kaiju form, because it's like, well, for one, it's just to prove himself, but it's mainly because Kafka, like, if he ever gets discovered for being a kaiju, because he will use that form if necessary, and it's like, I don't want him to have to ever put himself in that situation, especially considering what Kikuro said a couple episodes ago of like, if they found out, they would most likely experiment on him, slice and dice him, and turn him into a weapon. And it's like, yo, this is your senpai that you look up to. You kind of make each other better. So he's pushing himself more and more. They also kind of got into some of the different ammunitions, because he's using more of like a freeze type, because he's like, I think this will benefit me more. And obviously Iharu is like, yo, this guy keeps going further and further. He's like, dude, I went through, excelled at all this training I went through, but why is it I can't keep up with that guy? And I'm curious to see where that's going to go in the long run. That might hamper Iharu in the long run. Hopefully it won't turn into a severe like inferior, I can't always say that word, inferiority complex thing that he might have. Like, hopefully it doesn't turn into something like that, but we'll see. And obviously you have Kafka in the same group as Kikuro, which some of the more veteran members are like, oh my god, like, do we really have to babysit these kids? Like, why do we have to be stuck here? Like, they should be doing something else. Obviously Kafka kind of gets knocked aside, but Kikuro immediately showcases like, yo, I'm not just some kid. But also she blushes when Kafka's like, yo, that was pretty impressive. She's like, well, what did you expect? And then the suit's like, oh my god, your heart rate's up. She's like, shut up, we don't need to know information like that. I mean, obviously, you got some levity at the beginning of it all when everyone's nervous, and he's the most nervous because he ended up, instead of not eating out of nervousness, he ate a whole bunch, and now he's about to throw up from eating so much. I also feel so bad for Kafka. He's like, yeah, let's do this. And everyone else jumps down the building, and he has to slowly crawl down the building. I'm like, yeah, your combat suit's not in a position for you to casually just do those long leaps down without breaking and shattering your legs in the process. So yeah, I gotta take it slow. I love that. But once again, all the teams are doing their respective things, and Kafka wants to help out as much as he can, but it's like, well, I don't have the combat prowess to help. But then he thinks, well, I can utilize what I do know from my cleaning job, as well as just studying. So he ends up cutting open the Yojus, and he finds their core. He's like, it's in a very specific part, and it's also covered by all this stuff, acting almost like a backbone. So if anyone with weaker firepower should aim for the side. And also these things have reproductive organs on them, so when we kill them, we also need to destroy these, or more are going to get birthed. So he's like, right, I'm gonna go around Hoshina, and I'm gonna go like make sure all the ones that are dead, I'll make sure like the reproductive organ things were destroyed as well. And it's like, yeah, Hoshino is kind of proud. He's like, yo, good work, like you put that know-how to the test. It's like, yeah, he might not have the physical capabilities of the others, but he has a very unique perspective compared to everyone else. Because even Ichikawa, it's like he had that job for a couple months at best, versus Kafka, who's probably been working the cleanup side of things for years, But also, once again, he's studying, so it gives him a certain aptitude and perspective on it versus other people. I mean, who knows if transforming into a kaiju gives him any perspective. I think that's all him. I don't think any of the kaiju stuff has any say about all that. But also, we once again get to see Mina put into action. Far away sniper shot, power cannon, and her seeing Kafka and be like, all right, let me show you who I am. Just because she's like, I don't want you thinking I'm that same Mina, that girl from all those years ago. And she outputs her suit to like 96%. And she shoots one massive hole in the thing. I was like, oh, but you missed the core. Oh, going for a second shot. Oh, going for a third shot. Oh, going for a fourth shot. Because even the operator, she's like, are you sure? She's like, yeah, give the order. But it's because they knew ahead of time, like, even though you kill the Honju, it still would produce Honju from within its body. So they still got to clean up even after the fact, you know? And so that's still something they have to deal with. Obviously, the veteran members are ready to pick up the slack for the recruits because who are exhausted. I mean, this is their first big operation, but it's like, despite all that, it's like they're like, you know, the competitive nature, especially in like Aoi and the other guy, it's like, all right, now we can keep going. None of the recruits are willing to back down in this moment. So I also like that platoon leader who is extreme. I love that it's like she's like, oh man, these new recruits are better than even the previous batches. They're able to harness more of their combat suits powers and stuff, but also being like, they're also super hot. And you're like, wow. And I even love it says Cougar mode activated. So I don't know for sure because this is just a little introduction to this character, but she definitely reminds me of Himio from Chainsaw Man. She feels Himio coded, but I'm not quite sure yet. But we also finally get to see Hoshino in action too, because he's like trying to talk to Kafka. He's like, oh, like has this dissuaded you from trying to get next to Mina? He's like, this is as powerful as she is. You'd have to rise to even get close to stand beside her. And it's like, and you know, Kafka's like, are you powerful enough to stand by her? And he's like, nope, not a chance. But he's like, yeah, like she's a very unique case. He's like, when it comes to like long range, I can't compete. But he's like, when it comes to closer range, I think I outclass her. Because just in one swift movement, he draw, once again, classic, once again, sword stuff like that. I'm always a sucker for like the quick draw and then put it back and you've like been slashed like 1,000 times. And it's like, he talks about captains and vice captains are supposed to be the strongest of their units, and they're also the ones that get very specific equipment to match them, like to kind of bring out the proper prowess. So I guess in Mina's case, it's this power rifle. In his case, he said katana, but it seemed almost like I guess it's almost like a giant knife, but I don't know, maybe it is a katana. They look like knives. They didn't look like katanas, yes, but it showcases like how much of a hurdle Kafka has to overcome. I am curious to see in the long run how much. I mean, I'd assume the stronger he becomes, like the stronger he can become as a kaiju as well. Not unless those completely stay separate, but I'd assume like the more power he's able to draw out of himself, the more that reflects and makes him more powerful, maybe more durable, more stamina enhanced in his kaiju form. Maybe we'll have to wait to see. But Hoshino has this perspective where he's like, most officers tap out about 20 to 30% in their entire career. They're in their careers at 20 to 30%. And only a select few go beyond that. And those are the people who can become captains. And someone like Kikuro, who has reached 55% at like the young age she has, she's already on heading in that direction. But someone else he believes could reach that level is Ichikawa. I guess he just has that natural talent, even though like amongst like the others like Aoi and Iharu and the other guy, he was a lower percentage, only 8%, but he's pushing himself more and more, and he's training more so, but also probably has that latent talent. It is a combination of hard work, but also that latent talent I'm sure does play a role in all that as well. And then finally, we end the episode with Iharu and Ichikawa dealing with some more Yojus, and then they come across the guy from episode 4, the kaiju that's disguising itself as a human. I'm curious, is the rest of the group there, the monster sweepers, or did he just come off on his own? What's interesting though is he's like, oh, you found out about the reproductive organs. It's like, does someone on your side know a lot about kaijus? I was like, oh, that's fascinating. Like, who are you to be able to manipulate these kaijus to give them that? because these are very special mushroom types that I guess he modified in that case, which is like interesting to know that. I doubt he's not like the big boss, but he's probably more like a general in all of this. Once again, I figure there's got to be some main kaiju overseeing everything, and I wonder if this thing's one of its generals, which is interesting. Because I guess it's like, once again, like, who was it? Hoshino talked about his family's history with katanas, kind of goes super far back, specifically being kaiju hunters. And like I said, we haven't really gotten into how long kaijus have been a thing in this world. The way he kind of talks about it sounds like some like not ancient histories, but like hundreds of years ago type of history. I'm sure they'll explore it more on like how long kaijus have been around, but they have like deep-seated family history like that. I wonder if the same thing's the case in Kikuro's case, or is her family legacy more, it's not a lineage thing in her case where it's just like it's only a lineage thing from like her father to her, or maybe they do come from a long lineage, but they only talk about her father, like seems to be like the patriarch in the regards of like the head of like this lineage versus like, oh, it goes back generations rather than him being like the most recent head. It seems like I don't know. We'll have to wait to see it and see if that's something to explore, whether there's more to her family or not. But yeah, I guess we're going to get a little bit more with this guy. Sadly, Iharu and Ichikawa. Hopefully it doesn't. This definitely feels like a situation where like they will gut punch you and think like, well, if you're a main character, you're safe. But it's like there's a good chance Ichikawa's going to be fine, but Iharu might die depending on how the situation plays out. Obviously, Kafka would have to probably sneak off because like they would probably need him in his kaiju form against this thing. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see how that shapes up and plays out next episode as they continue with this operation, because they still have to like clear out all those other Yoju, and who knows what else this thing could do. I mean, he's the one who kind of sparked that regenerative ability in those. So like, who knows what else he's going to be able to do modifying these kaiju. Like I said, we'll have to wait to see. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.